Esto es para el tercer y cuarto puesto, really. O sea, Chupacroc fue a la final.
Runs that he's had in top 32s and then also top 16s too for other regional championship titles.
Yeah, and of course looking at his team, you know, he has utilized Palmot, which I think is one of the
Exacto, Maushol no lo ha llevado nadie.
Revival blessing, and he's using primarily brand new Pokemon from Generation 9. That's actually one of the things I wanted to call out between both of these players. Both teams only have one Pokemon respectively that is from the previous generations. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of brand new Pokemon here. Both players are actually using Meowscarada and Golden Go. Those are just two of the most consistent, strongest offensive options in the format. But we've got the Dondozo Tatsugiri. One of the biggest questions we had going into this tournament is Dondozo Tatsugiri going to win? People, of course, have a lot of counterplay to it, but Chuppa here is one of the players trying to really give it its first victory in Scarlet and Violet. And all the Dondozo Tatsugiri players have been eliminated. It's up to Chuppa to see whether or not he can claim it.
Hay muchos fantasmas en esta región, por eso no creo que no sale. Como en España, literal. Muchos fantasmas. Ah, la final.
A couple of other awesome choices that he has been able to put onto his team. But Chisak as well, just in Sword and Shield alone, Korean national champion from a few years before that, and then also the Players Cup runs that Chisak has been able to do for 4 Players Cups in a row.
Vamos a ver cómo sale esto, Voy preparando la predit.
Chisak was just one of the best online players on like the regular ranked ladder in game in Sword and Shield. He was constantly finishing first place.
Vamos, Faker.
Really lights out, and I was really hoping to see
Cárgate las Crocs.
I believe he was competing in Korea at the time, and so ended up not being able to make it to Worlds. But it's really exciting to see him, you know, flying out here all the way from South Korea and using this really interesting team featuring a lot of Pokemon that aren't that common, especially the Garganacl, Baxcalibur. He's got this offensive Life Orb Mimikyu as well. And we talked about Tauros a lot throughout the course of this tournament, but yeah, Chisak, of course, representing it here in the finals.
Yeah, so many Tauros in this tournament, so many Pelipper, a lot of really unique choices as well. Even just looking at the Mimikyu,
tienen la predit ya. Venga, voten gente por el ganador.
Options that they have for speed control or maybe lack thereof.
Yo hubiese pueblo discoteca, pueblo cuñado, entiendo lo del tipo fantasma. Pero la rapera no se dice. La rapera es la típica boomer, ¿vale? La típica señora de un poquito más allá de mi edad. Ya sé, hey, yo soy joven, tal. Vámonos de... Wow, yeah. Motherfucker.
Yeah, I think really what I'm going to be looking at in this matchup is that Dondozo Tatsugiri combination. It is really strong on Chuppa's team, and Chuppa has that Chesto rest set as well. And so one way that Chisak is approaching this tournament is using this really bulky Garganacl with Poison Terra to kind of just slowly KO the opposing team, especially with Sulk here. Now, that could normally work against Dondozo, especially maybe the Leftovers variants, but because this is the Chesto Berry set with rest, Dondozo can just keep eating up Sulk here damage and then...
están votando solo por un lado, Recuerden, pueden ganar mucho y perder muy poco.
The other thing to call out in this matchup is that the Dondozo actually has Earthquake on it. A lot of Dondozos recently have actually dropped it, you know, for a Terra Blast, for example, Flying Terra Dondozo was very prevalent throughout this tournament, and then you run like Wave Crash and Order Up and Protect. And so the Earthquake here actually means that you can hit the Garganacl even in Poison Terra for super effective.
La rapera va vive a
that's been a really big deal because I think she's
take advantage of the fact that there aren't that many Pokemon that can La princesa del pueblo.
Super effective damage. So my main question in this matchup is, when does Chuppa actually get the Dondozo combination activated, and does Chisak actually have an appropriate response?
No digas que eres boomer, güey, que me hundes a mí también. Vale, me relajo. Estoy con un Kigurumi de Pikachu, esto me quita 20 años.
That would be able to withstand the Earthquake. The two main options here are obviously, if you've got the Tatsugiri, giving that Dondozo a commander boost, then it's invulnerable.
Nadie va a votar por el otro.
But then you have Meowscarada that would take maybe just a little bit from the Earthquake. It does have that grass typing to help that out, but then Golden Go is the only Pokemon on this team that has Protect. So that would be the only other option that Chuppa will be able to place next to that Dondozo if he wants to play with the Dondozo and Tatsugiri pieces separately. That would be able to make that work. Everything else just doesn't look as good. Like, you'd want Palmot and Arcanine to stay alive for some of the physical attackers on Chisak's team.
Yeah, one really interesting thing, by the way, is these two players actually faced against each other already throughout the course of the tournament. Chuppa actually
Yo he
won
votado
2-0,
porque tiene a
and
Mimikyu
so
y
there
que es
is a
mi
lot of
favorito de
context
Alola.
going into this matchup. We weren't able
Perfectísimo.
to actually see them play throughout that
Yo voté
set, but
800 puntos por lo
both
menos.
players are coming into this saying, okay, I already
Sí,
have
pero votaron
experience
todos por el
fighting
mismo.
against you. Chuppa, of course, having the winning end of it, probably, you know, had
Ay,
found a
Dios
winning
mío.
strategy, and likely Chisok now has to think about how to adapt against what he previously went against. And so I think from Chuppa's end, like, Dondozo Tatsugiri is like the clear duo to play towards. Meowscarada and Golden Gold
Pero
is
gente,
really
piensa en
consistent. I
una
think you
cosa.
can bring Palm
Si
on
yo
and
voy
off,
con
it
un
could be a
traje
little
de
more
Pikachu,
situational, so I think the first
voy
four
disfrazado de
more likely
Pikachu
to come out.
o de
And for
Mimikyu.
Chisok's end, I think once again, the question is, how do you actually adequately deal with Dondozo? And it's tricky, honestly. I think part of it is, can you get the Terra out, right? Because if you get Dondozo to Terra, it's I believe, the Dragon Terra type here. You can use Baxcalibur, for example, with those super effective attacks to attack the Dondozo. But I think one other kind of approach is you use the Tauros, intimidate the Dondozo a bunch, and of course you can Sulk here. But I don't think Sulk here is as easy to just utilize successfully in this matchup because it is the rest Dondozo set.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that, you know, Garganacl does have that wide guard available,
Vamos a
so it
verte
might
el
be
susto,
able
así que de
to stave
Pikachu.
off some of that spread damage, but you're still
Vamos a
looking
ver la
at
gente.
having to take some pretty heavy hits. Even if you're able to get Meowscarada in a position to even Flower Trick into that slot too, you know, at what cost when you know that there's an Arcanine waiting in
¿Están
a
apuntando
Chuppa's
todavía,
party
tío?
as well? Our trainers are locking in their very
Venga,
first
empieza.
Pokemon for this game one of this best of 3 for the grand finals.
Final.
The San Diego Regional Championship.
Vale, empieza
And to
mi
kick things
mascarada
off,
y...
Chisok is going to
Oh,
start
oh, oh,
with
doble
that
mascarada,
Meowscarada
eh.
next to that Golden Go, and we've got
Oli,
Chuppa,
me he quedado rayadísimo.
Meowscarada, and Dondozo.
Yeah, so
Venga, vamos
Chisok
allá.
going with probably the most offensive duo on his team, right? Like this combination just pressures with a lot of damage immediately, and I like the idea there where you can just start scaring away things a little bit. And of course, like you see here, Dondozo's considering the Terra.
Vale.
And, that's a really important interaction because otherwise Meowscarada can just get that super.
O sea, lo más seguro es que mi mascarada vote un
And
youtuber.
So, yeah, Chuppa kind of opting for that to make sure you don't just feint to Meowscarada on the opposing end immediately.
Yeah, well, that brings up, like, you know, maybe what you were talking about before. If you can force the Dondozo into a position where it is going
Vale,
to
Goldengo,
terrestrialize immediately,
obviamente.
then does Chisok have options in the back to be able
Ah,
to
no,
deal
pues
with
mira.
the Dragon Terra type that we are
Con
going
dragón,
to see
vale,
it
con
take
teratipo
on
dragón.
through this terrestrialization. You're also going to be able to deal better damage with the order up that we saw Chuppa select as
Protect.
well, but Meowscarada is actually just going for a protect here to kick things off.
And the protect
Se lo
here
tiró
really
al-
to try to, you know, not get KO'd or
Vale,
get-
vale, vale.
get
Se lo
brought
tiró al
up
Goldengo,
possession.
se lo tiró al
Chuppa
Goldengo.
gets
Ejecuta,
followed by
ejecuta.
that and actually U-turns into Goldengo. So
Ejecuta,
really nice
entonces.
pivoting there, recognizing, hey, Meowscarada's not
Vale,
exactly
cae el
the
Tatsugiri.
obvious Pokemon, and it is time for Tatsugiri. It is now on the field.
Commander.
Chuppa recognizes this duo is just so strong. Why don't I just start the game off with it immediately? And
Venga,
here
pa'
we
dentro.
go.
Yeah, I mean, the U-turn is so smart as well because of Meowscarada's natural speed. It
Ahí
is
estamos,
able to get that
Steven.
U-turn
Faker,
before
cárgate las
Tatsugiri
Crocs.
hits the field. And so we'll have to see how
Stevens
that's
me da
going to
10
play a
bits,
role as
muchas
well. The
gracias.
order-up is gonna start
Estos bits
boosting
van por ti,
attacks too,
Faker,
but
siempre
except for the
confié.
fact that we do
Exacto,
have the
siempre
protect on the belt,
confiamos.
So Meowscarada is not going to be taking any damage, but Dondozo still gets the speed
Vale, make
boost,
your
which will be
rain.
so important later
Y
on in the
esquivamos
game.
el
Make your rain,
ataque,
though,
el
is
Dondozo
still going to hurt.
ha
Look at how much
recibido un
damage he does
pepinacillo,
on
¿eh?
Dondozo.
Yeah, one interesting thing to remember here is with Unaware on the Dondozo, the special attack drops from Golden Go
Va a ir
actually
por
essentially
tierra.
aren't relevant against Dondozo, so that's one of the cool things you can
Para
actually take
intentar
advantage of
reventar
Unaware,
al Goldengo.
utilizing that. But the Dondozo, of course,
Fíjate
does
tú
have
que creo que va a
significant
botar protección en este turno el Goldengo.
But
O
I think
cambiarlo.
Chisok honestly might not be too upset about that turn one. You got a fair amount of damage off immediately. One other interesting thing is the Meowscarada does have knockoffs. You can actually remove that Chesto Berry, making it so that if Dondozo uses rest, it won't be able to just wake up immediately as well.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to look at the fact that Dondozo doesn't have Sleep Talk, so that's not even an option as well for
Yeah.
if
Ay,
the
qué bonito el
Dondozo is
Dondozo
asleep,
ahí
it won't be able to
teracristalizado.
get an attack off either.
Vale.
Meowscarada is going to leave the field here for Chisok, though,
Mi
so
mascarada
going
lo
to have to
cambió
switch
por
into the
Tauros.
So you do
Vale,
have
para
that
meterle
Intimidate
Intimidate.
drop, and also because it's an Aqua Breed,
Aparte del
you're
cambio
not
de
gonna
por
be
sí.
taking as much damage coming
Pero-
through from that Dondozo either if it does
Ahí
get to
está.
go something
Sabía
crazy.
sabía que el
And also
Goldengo
just
se
a full
tenía que
swap
ir.
on the board as well, as
Vale,
Baxcalibur
Baxcalibur.
makes an appearance revealing that fourth and final Pokemon for G-Stock in this first
No estuvo mal, ¿eh? El doble cambio que ha hecho teniendo los Pokémon que tenía afuera no ha estado nada mal. Tírate un... Yo, sinceramente, con la estrategia que está llevando, aquí, por desgracia, el Dondoso no le va a sobrevivir un turno más. O sea, el Dondoso va a morir ahí. ¿Qué va a tirar? Iba a tirar descanso. Nada, el Excalibur puede matar al Dondoso de un bombazo. No, ya, Yugo, Pocota. Llega a tener relajo Dondoso y chiquito Gistaco. Nada, le hizo predil buenísima con el Tauro. Lo que pasa es que a pesar de la protección, el oído cocina hace que 4 lleva el dado, gente. O sea, recuerden que si el Excalibur va con dado, si no me equivoco, llevaba el dado.
From Chisok's end, you could consider switching out the Tauros and then bringing it back in for Intimidate. I think this is actually one of the reasons why Tauros is picked up in usage going into this tournament. The main thing with Dondozo Tatsugiri is you're essentially stuck on the field once you combine forms, and so with Intimidate, you can actually get rid of those attack drops essentially. And with so many players now moving towards speed rather than attack for order up, you're really able to take advantage of the fact that you just can't do much damage after a single Intimidate or two. So there's the switch from Chisok, and there's Ice Shard.
Oh, the survival there, so clutch.
LOL. Madre mía, venga, volvemos a empezar. Vale, la valla para... exacto, para levantarse. Yo llevaba en su momento a Spiritomb con una estrategia así. En individual, con la valla para curar un estado alterado. Y normalmente cuando veía que ya me iban quitando vida, tiraba a descanso. Vale, vuelve a mi escarada, meterá Tauros de nuevo. Ahí está. Y de nuevo Intimidate. Ya va a llegar un momento que no vas a pegar muy bien con el ataque, ¿eh? Oído cocina. No lo mata. Vale, venga para arriba. Pero está eso, seteando la velocidad gracias a oído cocina, pero no va a poder hacer mucho más. Le va a quitar un poquito más de la mitad de la vida. Creo que le va a entrar los 5.
And this is in cleanup range now too.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it gets 5 hits, brings it under half. I think one thing you can't help but wonder is if Chisok just went for the same play last turn instead of going for that Ice Shard, you would have been able to chip away Dondozo. But the main thing here is I'm not
es que no está llegando muy lejos con el Dondozo, la verdad. No está pudiendo hacer mucho. Le está haciendo muy bien. Ahora va a poder, por ejemplo, el Tauros de nuevo. Puede cambiar otra vez por mi escarada, después repetir. Y va a llegar un momento que el Dondozo ese va a pegar menos que yo que sé, un Pokémon salvaje.
The question is, you know, after Dondozo goes down, you know, Chupa still has a lot of resources on his team, and so
Dondozo tiene ignorante. Tío, en serio, tengo que mirar una cosa, espera un momento.
We see the Golden Go come back out on the field here. It's gonna have to take an Earthquake though, so that's a little rough on the income, but
es verdad que va con el puto ignorante, tío. El ignorante soy yo. Sí, a ver, o sea, a ver. Os explico. El Intimidate sí le afecta, porque le afecta a él. Lo que ignora ignorante son los cambios de estadísticas del rival, no las que le afectan a él. Ese es el rollo. Por lo cual las Intimidate le han entrado. Madre mía. Nada, es que es eso, como os comenté. El Dondozo estaba en la mierda.
I have to say, Choppa has played like incredibly well with Golden Go throughout the course of this tournament, and so there's a lot of offense right now. But one of the downsides for Choppa is that neither the Meowscarada nor the Tatsugiri.
Y pues ese cuerpo puro, ahí está.
But the question is, do you really need protect if you're
Con la habilidad de, bueno, si no me equivoco, la tiene Metagross,
Yeah, and that's
¿no?
definitely why I feel like you see Meowscarada as such a nice option to be able to bring in next to that Tatsugiri. You can go for some of that speed control if you want to select Icy Wind here, but also Meowscarada is just so naturally fast. And a lot of trainers right
¿Le
now
meterá
are
doble
working
protect?
at max speed, max attack to be able to ensure knockouts, but also ensure that they move before some of the heavier
Vale, tira
hitters in
Excalibur
this format.
Protect.
Yeah, and exactly, like, this is where late game Tatsugiri is actually kind of nice because
Al
with that
final
choice
solo
you do
optó
just
por
kinda
defender
guarantee
con
outspeeding
uno.
the opposing
Y
side,
supongo
and
que Goldengo le habrá tirado
discounted
Make It
good
Rain.
behavior from Tatsugiri, right? And so here is the knockoff coming out, and that is just going to get the knockout into Golden Go. And so what's interesting here is that, like you mentioned, Choppa just
Ese Goldengo no lleva nada.
the knockoff, at least, you know, you have
Vale,
to
bien,
make
bien,
it
bien,
to
bien.
a certain attack, and the Meowscarada on this team has a choice band, so at least you know now it's locked into that choice band, and it's choice scarf on Tatsugiri. So Chisok this next turn knows exactly what can happen in terms of offense. Of course, either Pokemon can pivot out into Choppa's final Pokemon, but Chisok just going for Protector, scouting it out, and sacrificing Golden Go, saying, I'm probably not going to get another move off with Golden Go.
A ver a quién mete de los dos que le queda. Al propio Meowscarada, ahí
is
está.
going to make another appearance, and I think that this is a really interesting position as well because of what Choppa has in the back. Do you feel comfortable and confident enough that you might be able to bring it in? I was almost thinking maybe if we saw the Tauros again, that's just an ideal switch out for the Meowscarada.
A ver, tal como le queda al Excalibur, intenta quitártelo ya.
Reactivate Protean if Meowscarada does get a chance to switch out and come back in.
Antes de que te
So you
arrepientas.
could change your typing again that way. So kind of available on both sides if they really want to.
Yeah, this is honestly a, I think, pretty tricky position for both players. I mean, Choppa having the speed advantage certainly helps a little bit. You do have to worry about the focus sash on the opposing Meowscarada, but that Meowscarada does not have access to like a U-turn. Ice Shard is just going to come out. It's decent damage on Meowscarada, but you know does not get the knockoff. Now will finish off
Ahí está.
so Chisok will be down to his final two Pokemon.
Vamos, Faker, esto se gana en el late.
Meowscarada targeting.
Meowscarada ends up targeting into the Golden Go. I think that's definitely going to be really good for Chisok. And that is a one-hit knockout. Great targeting there. That is so rough.
Where is Golden Go?
Into a powerful
Where is
knockoff coming in
Golden Go?
Tatsugiri gets to come back in and also has the ability to change up what
El
he
Lee Sin
wants
hizo
to
buen
go for,
early.
but this is it for both
Dios,
trainers.
agüita,
Their final two Pokemon
Pero
in
ojo,
this first game.
están 2-2,
A really nice play.
Están
I mean,
2-2.
There's no potential protect at that position, and like the Meowscarada, you could, I guess.
No sé si es momento de ir al
The
Nashor.
knockoff, yeah, would cover for one, getting rid of the choice scarf on Tatsugiri, or two, you know, if you switch into the Golden Go, then you just get the knockoff.
Tienen
So
War.
nicely done on Chisok's end. I think Choppa really going for the switch there, saying, well, I don't really want to be stuck with Draco Meteor. I kind of want to reset, maybe potentially, you know, go for like Icy Winds later on in the match. But yeah, now it's going to be the final two Pokemon from both ends, and the thing for Choppa is that you do have choice items on both Pokemon. So the Tauros here going to get it Intimidate onto the Meowscarada, and very critically, the Meowscarada right now is locked into that knockoff.
Yep, I was thinking the same
O sea,
thing.
si
You
mete
would
el
really
Draco
just position,
Meteoro,
almost rather have
aunque no
the
sé si...
power trick as an
¿Ustedes creen
option
que va a
instead
tirar
of
más bien por
being a
viento y
grass
hielo?
type, because
No, no, no,
with
va a ir a
Tauros
reventar
across
con
the
Draco
way,
Meteoro.
you do have to wonder, is
A
close
reventar.
combat maybe heading in my
Es que,
direction?
sinceramente, para lo que queda de combate yo tiraría... No. Yo no hubiese tirado eso. Yo hubiese tirado el truco floral al Tauros. Si ibas con ese movimiento era tirarle el truco floral al Tauros. Es que te...
And so that's another KO here for Chisok. It's just the Tatsugiri left. Doesn't feel like that's going to be enough.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. I think, you know, obviously Choppa can consider doubling up onto the opposing side.
Croc.
But then the thing is, you're
¿Qué has hecho, Croc?
and the Meowscarada is stuck using knockoff. And the opposing Meowscarada might actually be able to, you know, just flower trick everything for a KO. But the read goes correctly there. Draco is going to go into Tauros.
Sí, a ver, con eso lo mata, pero ahora...
Get the knockout there, but I'm not sure it's really going to be enough. I think two flower tricks here certainly should finish up this game. And masterfully piloted by Chisok as
Get
knockoff here
up.
will remove that choice
Knock
mark
off.
as well. And so Escarlata now will be able to guarantee moving first in this upcoming turn. And we're going to see Chisok lead take
Y
this
a
first
ver, es
game
el
in the Grand
Draco
Finals.
Meteoro.
A masterful display there. I mean, Chisok just had such a nice control of that end game, and being able to work around that Dondozo Tatsugiri was so well done, especially knowing that Chisok had lost those
A
two
ver,
games in the very first
Tatsugiri
set
después de la
that they
guardada de la
played.
habilidad hace algo,
Having
sí.
game one right
Puede
now
meterte eso, un
feels
Draco Meteoro.
so good for him.
De forma individual también puede hacer algunas cositas. Es un Pokémon muy débil respecto a sus stats defensivos, pero puede hacer algo. Bueno, débil entre comillas, tampoco es que sea el papel supremo en plan Cartana, pero...
And the thing is that the Dondozo just, because order up is plus speed rather than attack in this matchup, you just don't actually do that much damage. And so, yeah, I'm actually really curious about how Chuppa, adjusts here, right? Because I think it's finally shown, hey, Dondozo plus the Tatsugiri doesn't necessarily just sweep, and the intimidates are a really major problem. So from Chuppa's end, I think you might want to...
Sí, a ver, es que ¿sabes lo que pasa? Que aquí llegamos al momento de las predicciones a posteriori. ¿Sabes qué? Hubiese hecho esto, pero es que yo, incluso antes de lo que hizo en la jugada, no hubiese hecho lo que hizo el Croc. El otro fue chupar Crocs. Voy a por la tercera victoria seguida con Gardevoir. Bien, de vez. Dale duro ahí.
Commentating over your brother and just seeing how he was able to navigate through the Dondozo Tatsugiri, like where do you really position them on the board to actually get that combo to work, and in this matchup even more so does feel very precarious. But Chisok didn't even bring the Garganacl. Like the one thing that we were kind of looking at is, well, Dondozo was a great answer to that, but that's not really a threat if Chisok is able to work around the positioning of that Dondozo Tatsugiri combo and then also just do enough damage.
I agree. I feel like Chisok's really found a combo that works well here, and I would be kind of surprised if he deviated from the 4. I think like Garganacl, still just isn't consistent enough against Dondozo, and it's maybe a little bit too slow-paced. I think it's really cool that Chisok kind of just pushed the tempo with this team. We've seen him play very defensively with this team throughout the course of the tournament, but in this one, he has a very
Parece que vamos a entrar ya en la segunda partida.
And so maybe swap some of the Pokemon. I don't know. I feel like Mimikyu just doesn't really offer very much in this matchup either, but I guess the one interesting application for it is...
A ver, sinceramente, a pesar del resultado que vamos por ahora, ¿quién creen que va a ganar? Venga, buenas noches, Miguel. Muchas gracias por el apoyo. Nos vemos.
Got some similar Pokemon on both sides here to kick off game 2 of this best of 3. Chisok does have that game advantage, so he needs one more win here to crown himself the regional champion in San Diego. And this feels like such a toss-up. What do you do here, Aaron?
It's tricky, yeah. I think one of the things is obviously both sides threaten each side with super effective damage, right? And so it's like, do you go for a Terra this early on just to make sure you survive an attack? For example, the knockoff from the opposing Escarlata is looking really, really threatening. Chuppa does have that super effective U-turn, but Chisok has the focus sash on Escarlata, right? And so Escarlata is more or less guaranteed an attack off if it wants to actually move, but Chisok's saying, you know what, I'd actually rather conserve it right now and bringing in Tauros to get that quick Intimidate off onto the opposing Escarlata.
Yeah, that feels really good here as well. The Intimidate is going to be very helpful for just utility, and then you also have access to some pretty awesome options there in terms of attacks. But it's time for a Terra too, so you're gonna see one of those Golden Go receive that Terra Orb, terrestrializing to that Steel type, just to be able to help out some of that attack that could be coming out from a Make It Rain. But Knockoff going to change Escarlata's typing to the Dark type. It does keep Chisok's Golden Go quite safe here, but the Make It Rain coming through, double stab, doesn't have the choice specs anymore, but it still packs quite a punch.
Get some damage there. There's the special attack drop now to make it
right. Este lo va a tirar directo.
One of the interesting things we were talking about going into this,
a ver, no ha habido mucha diferencia incluso con el tema del teratipo de uno y no del otro. Creo que voy a guardar la Tera para otro de los Pokémon. Lo más seguro para el propio Dondozo.
And it's still, I'd say, a fairly neutral point. And, by removing the opposing Golden Go's choice specs, like Golden Go now has the option to actually just click like that Shadow Ball, for example. And so one of the questions here is, do you think your Escarlata can actually KO the Golden Go? If not, maybe you consider switching it out. The opposing Golden Go here is also, has options, but I think Chuppa might be a little bit afraid of, just fainting.
¿Va a tirar de Protect?
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to see a protect on the Golden Go from Choppa's side just to make sure that it's not going to be taking anything super effective here. The Escarlata goes for a knockoff. It does get the knockout here. So Chisok's Golden Go is not going to be able to get a second attack.
Esta... Ahí debilitado, uno tocado. Aguanta ahí el tipo. Muy buena predicta de este turno de Chupacross.
If you can actually pick up 2 knockouts as well, you prevent the Toros from switching in and out, and that means Intimidate is just so much less valuable, right? You essentially just can really get 1 maybe. And so I think for Choppa right now, you ideally want to just look towards picking up that second knockout as quickly as possible. That's easier said than done, though, of course. The Escarlata right now is locked.
Es que ahora el propio Escarlata del enemigo le puede hacer lo mismo. No sé si mataría... No repitas Protect. No repitas Protect. No te va a salir.
But of course, if you switch the Escarlata out, well, there's the Dondozo or Tatsugiri in the back. You risk one of those just coming in and getting knocked out by a double up. So yeah, not gonna go and
olvídate.
It just fails.
Yeah, doesn't get it. I mean, Escarlata is still gonna be able to use the
cuando tienes que jugar sobre el doble Protect. Y te lo digo yo que soy un experto de esa mierda. Que muchas veces es dolor, tío.
Choppa navigates around this position where he doesn't actually just have a choice left. That close combat coming in from Chisok's Toros.
Claro, Pocota.
As well. So it's just down to
Choppa. Te puede a desarme, golpe bajo. O sea, se lleva con ambos incluso.
I don't really want to take any risks. If the Golden Go faints here, so be it. If it gets the double protect off, great. Then the next turn I can, get the Dondozo Tatsugiri combo by switching out the Golden Go. And
tirar con Dondozo.
Could switch either Pokemon
Comandar.
out, but the problem is the team is so reliant on getting Dondozo Tatsugiri activated. If you switch one of those in, of course Chisok could predict that and just get the knockout. So Dondozo plus Tatsugiri is activated, but the Tauros...
Tienes que buscar la manera de matar a ese Tauros. Si no mata al Tauros en 1 o en 2 turnos, se acabó. Muere. Literal, o sea, va a ir al Tauros, pero es que va a cambiar el Tauros. Va a meter otra cosa. O sea, el Pokémon que le falte, no sé si será Mimikyu. Ah, no, cambió mi Escarlata. Excalibur.
It's just going to be a manual switch here, and the terrestrialization as well. This is going to help just a bit to be able to keep the Dondozo just a touch safe.
Claro, es un golpe con prioridad y ataca en función del ataque del rival. Vale, tiene su propia potencia, pero va también por el ataque del rival. Y la cosa es que si el rival no está preparando ningún ataque, pues no hace nada.
Safe, and now of course it can go for super effective attacks, right? And so yeah, that was really well positioned. However, the main thing to consider is that the Steel Golden Go was already committed earlier on, so you don't actually have the Terra here. So of course you could go for order up into the Excalibur slot. Now if you're Chisok, you could consider protecting Excalibur, switch Tauros out, and
bien. Nada, ves, va a salvar al Tauro. Mi Escarlata.
If he goes for the attack, that is the biggest read of this entire
¿Vale? Ok, por lo menos no ha ido mal del todo para el tema de Chupacross ahora mismo. Order up, no sé si matar mi Escarlata de una, que creo que sí. Debería, ahí está. Obviamente está seteado. Pero ahora entra, obviamente, el Tauros, pero solo le va a poder meter Intimidate una vez, así que dentro de lo tal, ahí se queda. Tiene al Dondozo full de vida. Y habiendo tirado protección, yo atacaría en el siguiente turno al Excalibur de cabeza.
I'm wondering now, maybe a critical hit, especially from the Excalibur, is what I think could greatly change things. The other thing to consider is even if the Dondozo faints, there's still the Tatsugiri in the back, and the Tatsugiri can Draco Meteor as well. And so I think Choppa handling this game much better than the previous one. And yeah, let's see if Dondozo can pull it off here.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to withstand.
Es que aquí, por ejemplo, sería un caso de intentar tirar doble Protect con el Excalibur. Vale, no se arriesgó. Y order up. Y fuera Excalibur. obviamente era lo normal. Nada, esta partida tiene pinta de que está para Chupacross. Olvídate. Se acabó. No puedes pasar. Estoy haciendo partidas rápidas para tener los 1000 de oro. Dale ahí. Venga, 1-1. Chupacross. Y Lee. El Lili. El Lolo, el Lili.
Yeah, that was a clean knockout for sure, even with that Intimidate drop onto the Dondozo to just make the commander boost a little bit more comfortable. What an incredible set we've had so far, though. We are going to a game 3 in this best of 3, so the winner of this next game will be crowned your San Diego regional champion. It really does all come down to this.
Madre mía, qué combatazo, ¿eh? Lo que pasa es que no estamos viendo ahí a Paumo, ¿eh? Chupacross ya no confía en el Paumo, ya. Y sinceramente, si... Vale que no está sacando al Carcanacle posiblemente por el Dondozo, pero... No sé, yo es que más que el Bascalibur hubiese tirado las partidas con Mimikyu y con... Claro, si tiene Tera tipo dragón. O sea, con el Mimikyu a full. Mimikyu está en mi equipo. Lo que pasa es que ha coincidido las dos veces que ha ido con Dondozo a saco. No sé cómo terminarán yendo al final. Creo que esta es la última partida. No es al mejor de 5, es al mejor de 3.
Terra on the Baxcalibur, and so I think he's got to be a little bit more careful about the Terra throughout the course of this game. And it felt like he was forced to Terra Golden Go in game 2 and turn 1 of the previous game. And so this time around, you might have to make some adjustments so that you don't feel forced to do that just to respond.
Maybe you take a coin flip as well if you're looking at these leads once again, because it is
Venga, vamos para allá.
For both of our trainers in this game 3. This first turn is so important. Looking at how Chuppa is going to try to navigate this position.
Escarlata han empezado igual a hacer, o sea, han hecho literalmente mirror.
There's so many different ways that this first turn could go.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just this threat of the knockoff that's so scary, right? And
yo creo que Giseo, si lleva Tauros en esta, lo va a guardar para el final. Creo que no se va a arriesgar ni a hacer cambio. A ver si me equivoco. Creo que va a ir con todo.
Alright, well, this ended up not quite paying off in that game number 2 the way that you might have hoped to see it. But the Escarlata going for the knockoff here. We got to see the Protean go through first, but it's still able to do so much damage to that Golden Go. But Escarlata able to knock off in return. Was going for an attack with that Golden Go, but now it doesn't get a chance to move.
Wait a minute, that might have been really greedy. Make it
Ese mi Escarlata no le metió una cachetada, le metió un puñal. Nada. Se acabó. Se acabó. A Chupacross. Nada, ni memes ni mierda. Mi madre. Nada. Dondozo dependencia. Reza muy fuerte. Reza muy fuerte para que saques eso adelante. Olvídate. Olvídate, le acaba de salir demasiado bien. Tiene el Tera tipo 0. Con el ataque de tipo dragón no le vas a hacer ni mierda. Tiene... A ver, tiene terremoto.
He's gotta do something here. And
Tiene terremoto y la teracristalización ni va a teracristalizar. Tauros, para ir bajándole el ataque. Teracristalización.
It would be a completely different game. I think Golden Go just opted for the Protect there, but Chuppa trying to play really aggressively and gets punished really heavily. He has a huge uphill battle up in front of him. But if there's any duel that can do it in this format with a comeback, it is this combination. But it's actually just going to be a flower trick here.
Well, so, you know, the terrorization there for this Dondozo was quite smart. Just going to remove that super effective damage there from that flower trick. And the Earthquake comes through.
Vamos a ver cómo lo lleva a pesar del...
Just a little bit of damage here to that Escarlata and Tauros, but you're still looking at such an upward climb.
A ver, el Tauros te lo va a cambiar. Eso es una obviedad. Va a entrar Golden Go de nuevo, o Excalibur.
We're expecting, Aaron. The Tauros goes out, the Golden Go comes in, and I don't think Chisak is feeling too bad about this, especially when he goes for a protect on the Meowscarada.
Tío, ríndete. Ríndete. Si encima te hizo esa predict ya, lo siento de verdad, o sea, lo ha hecho muy bien. Lo ha hecho muy bien, Giseo. O sea, puedes intentar ahora botar terremoto, pero es que ahora va a cambiar a Golden Go, va a meter Tauro, te va a volver a bajar el ataque. Olvídate, va a llegar un momento que no vas a tener nada ahí. Ah, pues mira, no. Qué raro que se haya... Qué raro que se haya arriesgado de esa manera. Ha querido perder al Golden Go de gratis. No me pregunten por qué. Pero eso ha sido perder gratuito.
Okay, Baxcalibur has hit the field. Now, of course, you could just pivot out the Meowscarada, go out into Tauros, bring the Dondozo essentially down to neutral, and I think you could play it safe here, right? Protect the Baxcalibur, for example, and cycle in a third Intimidate later on to continuously decrease Dondozo's attack. Make sure that you just don't feign to an order up at all, because I think right now the key win condition essentially is, for Chuppa, can I just eliminate Baxcalibur before it gets an Icicle Spear off? So there's the switch.
Nah, Metatauros.
Tauros now gonna get an Intimidate drop, and at this point too, at least for Chuppa,
¿Os podéis creer tanta mierda con que la estrategia de intimidación no se juega? Y es literalmente lo que ha significado que gane o no la final. O sea, Intimidate no se ha ido. No se ha ido. Parece que no, pero está jodiendo. Está jodiendo, la Intimidate sigue, tío. La Intimidate sigue. Y de aquí a una semana, los dragonites con multiescamas, no. Va a volver a ser con fuerza mental. Fijo.
Chisak Lee has 3 Pokemon still, and a masterful game here. As close combat is going to go into Port Tatsugiri. It'll survive for another turn, but Chisak must be able to take the championship at this point. He is 1 turn away from winning the San Diego Regional Championships.
I mean, a nice start here would do it. Coming out for the Baxcalibur, so that priority move going into the Tatsugiri. And that final knockout crowns Chisak Lee your 2023 San Diego Regional Champion.
Y este se quedó en plan de, bueno, gané. Giseo ha ganado Faker. Vamos a dar el resultado de la predict, gente.
Gets punished really heavily this time around, and yeah, Golden Go Meowscarada against Golden Go Meowscarada. There's so much pressure from both sides, but the Golden Go just getting eliminated.
Si quieres para tu equipo, Masquerain tiene Intimidate, pues venga, Intimidate. Madre mía.
Yeah, I mean, a huge credits though to Chuppa. I know that he's falling short, but he's got another finalist title under
ha sido una locura, tío.
Other accomplishments that he has. And also, I mean, sometimes you do have to play a little bit risky in that third game to try to guarantee yourself the win. And so maybe it was a gamble that didn't quite pay off.
Muy buena el Faker.
What an incredible performance from all of our trainers in Top Cut today.
Y bueno, gente, llevamos 7 horitas de directo. ¿Qué os voy a decir? La cosa es, vamos a dejar a estos ya por ahí hablando solos. La cosa es, historia mesopotámica. Sí, exacto.
Soy yo, Concha. Entro.
Reme, muchas gracias por esa raid, preciosi. Bienvenuti, ¿cómo estamos? Déjame darte ahí un buen show.